ninth Leadership Levers lecture on flexible new working economy, the new normal by Shreya Prakash, who is the co-founder as well as chief executive officer of FlexiBees company. And before I hand over the platform to her, let me have the pleasure of introducing her to you. After her completing her undergraduation in electronics, that's B Electronics and Telecommunication from KJ Somaiya College of Engineering. Now she started working with Infosys Technologies as software engineering, and that is between September 2004 and to the May 2006. After which she joined the prestigious IIM Bangalore for her 2-year PGDBM program. And after completing her stint with IIM Bangalore, she joined again another marquee company, the illustrious Unilever company. And that's where she worked for about 8 years. After which, she founded this company called FlexiBees, and she has been operating as a chief executive officer from January 2021 onwards. And as a part of this company, she helps businesses grow by providing part-time and project-based talent to them via a pool of highly qualified women who want to work remotely. And I'm sure she will have lots of insights about this flexible working, and especially from the point of view of what we have seen during the pandemic, and even today, some of it is continuing. And I'm sure, like I said, we will have great insights, and some of you also might have some direct, maybe consulting with her, right? Thank you so much, and look forward to having a great lecture from you, Shreya. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Nagendra, and I'm happy to be here and looking forward to our discussion. So I'll just share a very simple presentation that I have just to anchor the conversation.
Sure.
Yeah. And of course, happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. So yes, the flexible working economy, it is indeed the new normal. And we are going to talk about what it is that it holds for businesses specifically, and why businesses should feel very excited about the fact that today we are literally operating with no boundaries, geographically speaking, and the whole world is available to us, and there are multiple other benefits. So let's talk about that. So to begin with, 1 second. Yes, sorry. So we'll come to all of that later. Though my presentation is getting ahead of me. So what are some of the unique challenges that businesses face today? And I'm sure many in the audience are, of course, very well aware of some of these. So let me get down to it. Yes, okay. So got the hang of it now. So yes, first of all, tight budgets and bottom line pressures. We are in a state where we are monitoring growth very, very tightly. There are, we know that our consumers, our customers are also, constrained at their end in terms of their disposable income. And if we are operating in B2B environments, and other businesses similarly so. And of course, that means that we have to be very judicious about spends as businesses, and that holds true for smaller businesses like ours and even larger businesses. Everybody is facing the same pressure. The choices have to be made with a lot of deliberation, and at the same time, the choices have to be made. There is an upside. There are spaces that promise growth, that promise revenue, and businesses have to go after them. So it's a little bit of that situation where you need to, you need to grow, but you need to make sure that your bottom line is also maintained. So this definitely is something that is going to, in fact, even increase in the times to come. For smaller businesses specifically, who get into new spaces, who invest in, say, a new market or may invest in a new product. It takes a bit of time for demand to ramp up. And during that time, the monies that have been put to build that business are purely an investment with, virtually no return. So this of course is hard on, on all types of businesses, but specifically on smaller businesses, for whom it's purely cash that they are at that point burning. So that's the second scenario. And connected to this point is the third one, that there very definitely is the need to MVP and experiment. And in case somebody doesn't know what MVP means, it's minimal viable product. It's what in the startup language we mean when we say that we'll go to market with the barest possible, the bare bones solution, whether it is in the form of a product or it's in the form of a service, and we'll let the market respond to it, and we'll see whether it works or it doesn't, and how we need to proceed from there. And the MVP philosophy or the experimentative philosophy very much needs to be, in the DNA of all companies today, because the market is dynamic. Like I said, there are growth opportunities, but before going the full haul and building your entire infrastructure to pursue that opportunity, it is worthwhile to experiment, do a pilot, see if it works or doesn't. And all of that means that you have to be very lean and very agile as a company. So from this philosophy, you need to make sure that your teams are equally lean and agile. Your hiring is equally lean and agile, and that is a reality that businesses today operate in. And then there is the fourth, resounding truth that many of us have heard of in bits and pieces, but it's something that we perhaps don't see, as clearly as business leaders as we see the other facets. This one is, in that sense, an invisible revolution, but it's very much ongoing. In fact, there is a recent report by Michael Page that talks about it. It's just come out, and it talks about the trends in the talent space, how people are redefining what work means to them. It talks about the talent trends in the global scenario and also in India, and it's got very interesting learnings. And I was very surprised, being in the talent space myself and being in the hiring space. Even I thought that some of those findings were new to me. And some of those are that in India, around 75% of people who at any point are employed with any company, so 75% of your employees are actively looking out for new opportunities, and 9 out of 10 employees are open to new opportunities, even if they may not be actively looking out for them. And this number in India is actually higher than the global average, wherein 57% of people are looking out for new opportunities. 57 globally and 75% in India. And overall, the picture isn't good. It means that people are uh, not wedded to your company in the same way that we as business leaders may have hoped for in, say, 5 years or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and definitely a decade or so ago, it was very different. But today, talent is very aware of what they bring to the table, very aware of what it is that they seek from their work, and they are willing to pursue that and go out and look for that and make it happen. So the other aspect of this survey, it said that five in 10 employees in India consider their mental health and well-being to be of more importance than job satisfaction, and that number globally is 7 on 10. Again, a very strong message to us business leaders on what's going on, what's important, and how we need to change our mindsets very quickly. And there are a bunch of other such findings from this report. one of the things it says, and this is in fact a solution more than it is a problem, is that there are three factors that people specifically in India are looking for. The first one is salary. The second one is career progression. And a very strong third is flexibility at work. And these are the top three factors or top three drivers of why people are pursuing new opportunities and are leaving their jobs, to find newer ones. So this is really the landscape today. On the one hand, businesses need to, find ways to grow while keeping their bottom lines, intact. They need to be constantly in the mode to experiment, figure out what's working, what's not working, to stay ahead of competition and to stay ahead of the market. And they also need to, at the same time, tackle the invisible talent revolution, make sure that the best talent, the top talent, continues to be interested in working with them so that they are able to harness the opportunities that they see. So it's not easy, and that's why we are here. We are in the business world. We've all taken on the mantle to make a difference, to build our businesses, to build wealth. It's not easy, but there are ways to do it. And one of the ways to do that is through the flexible working economy. So flexibility is the answer to a lot of these things, and quite literally to the aspect of talent seeking flexibility today as one of the top three drivers of what compels them to change their jobs. It is the answer. But even for the others, other dilemmas that we spoke about, very much flexibility could be the answer. If you want to grow, but you have a tight budget, which means one of the things that you need to do is to maybe constrain or control the way that you hire people. One way to get the greatest of talent, the best of talent, the skills that you need while keeping your bottom line within budget is to hire, hire flexibly, is to hire part-time professionals, is to hire project-based professionals. That's one way to do it. Similarly, when demand is ramping up, and at that time you may not have the ability to say create whole teams, fund project or your pilot in the best possible manner. You could hire people on project. You could hire people through these models, which could help you, be able to MVP the approach very well. And if it works, it's great, and you hire them, for longer durations, or you hire them permanently. But if the strategy doesn't work, or if the pilot doesn't work, then you're able to let go also much more easily. So some of these are the ways in which businesses can, harness the power of flexibility. And we could talk about a lot of examples that could make it clearer. But before we do that, what is the flexible working economy? What are the various pillars of it? Who are these, flexible working professionals? So there are four aspects to it that I will talk about. First of all, these are skilled professionals. So a few years ago, we used to talk about the gig economy. The flexi economy is actually the gig economy taken, several notches higher. So while a gig could be, say, for a graphic designer or a coder or say even a content writer, today any skill and every skill is available in the flexible working economy. So you could hire a sales professional, an IT sales professional. You could hire sales leader. You could hire a marketing and a branding expert. You could hire an equity research analyst. You could hire a CFO. All of these skills are available on a part-time, on a flexi-time basis. And, these are all people who, because of one reason or the other, are part of this economy. It could be that they want the variety of being able to work with multiple companies or industries rather. So for example, performance marketers, very much one of the drivers that keeps them in the flexible economy is that they get the variety, they keep their skills cutting edge. Another driver is balance, the balance that a lot of caregivers seek, women seek. They have the skills, but they do not want to engage with the full-time workforce because it doesn't allow them the time to prioritize their other responsibilities or their other interests. And again, this is one reason why they are in the flexible working economy. So for this, the so what has happened in the last few years is that a lot of skills across functions are now available here, and it's a very happy place for businesses to be in because they can choose. They have a variety of skills to choose from, and these are trained professionals. These are people who you'd hire, they'd come, and they'd be able to hit the ground running. And they can, for them, skill is their currency. The way that they engage with this market is through how skilled they are. So they definitely invest more in keeping themselves up to date. So it's a great place for any business to hire from. The second aspect is the arrangements itself. What are the arrangements like? So the arrangements could be anything. It could be of various types. It could be, say, a part-time role that starts from, say, 2 to 3 hours per day. Now, there are large companies who come to us who are, very much, conglomerates, multi-country presence. But when they want to try out, say, a new model, sometimes they would say that, we want to start with a 4 to 5 hours per day kind of model. And definitely that works extremely well for smaller companies. So across companies, being able to hire in a way that allows you to dial up as the demand increases is a very, it's a very, say, business friendly proposition. So it could be part time, it could be project based. It could be that you are looking at doing a piece of research to see whether your brand needs an overall, and you want to call in somebody who's worked on in a similar space before, worked in a similar space before, and you know that it's a project with a specific outcome. It's a project which is going to have its own milestones, and you hire them for those, say, 3 months or whatever time it takes. Or you want your app to be completely revamped, and you hire somebody who's a UI UX designer who comes in with the that mindset of being able to figure out what the user needs from from your application, and is able to create all the wireframes and frameworks to help you do that. And you need them to come in and work for, say, only around 100 hours or 200 hours over the next 2 3 months. And these are all arrangements that are possible as part of this economy. And the liberation that it gives businesses, the freedom that it gives businesses, is to be able to define the arrangement as per what their need is. And a third important aspect of the arrangement is remote, which often is framed as what the talent needs are. And very much, yes, the talent very much who's working in the space does need the ability to work remotely, because, like I said, many of them are trying to balance their lives, and it works very well for them. But very often we see that businesses also benefit a lot from being able to hire remotely, because you know what it does, it frees you from looking at the talent pool, which is only a 10 to 20 kilometer radius from your office. It frees you to look at a much larger radius, which, virtually, actually, there is no limit at all. You can hire from any part of the world, and there are businesses which are now enabling that through contractual, and paperwork and legal support. You can hire from any part of the world. And certainly, you being in India, you can hire from any part of India, and imagine the ways in which it opens up the talent pool. And we, being a small business, I can certainly tell you that it's made us so much, it's added so much value to us to be able to hire from cities and from towns where talent is sitting, but they don't have the opportunity. So again, it's something that's very beneficial for businesses. The third aspect is the payment and how that's structured. So it's absolutely pay per time needed. So if you are entering into a part-time arrangement, very often it is a prorated arrangement as per the number of hours that the work is happening. A few times you can also set milestone based or output based payment schedules. So it's all very easy on your on the bottom line. And of course, it works for both ends. So it's fair compensation and in line with what the experience commands, but often prorated as per what the bandwidth that is being invested in your particular role or project is. And finally, it's the agility. It's at the heart of this economy. Many of us, we hire day in and day out, and we understand that when you want to hire a person full time as an employee, it necessitates a bit of longer conversations and culture fitment and all of those things. But often we don't have the luxury of that. And very often now, given how things are changing very quickly, the external environment being so dynamic, we have to respond quickly. So in such a situation, if you spend 3 months in hiring somebody and then spend 1 month in training them, that's 1/3 of the year gone. And time is money, and we can't afford to do that. So here is this pool that's willing to work in. If you find them in 5 days, you can onboard them the week after. And so it's a very quick and very agile kind of hiring mechanism. And equally, because there is flexibility that they get, they also give you that flexibility. And the notice periods are shorter, and you can also let go in an adverse situation, of course, with the right mechanisms. Like I said, notice periods which are shorter, you can let go, and it helps you keep your business lean. So these are some of the aspects of the flexible working economy. We're happy to take any questions on this. Yes, and now I come to the section where I talk about, there is a little bit of there is a perception that there are challenges that are that come with hiring flexibly. And for those of you who are in the HR space, you could be thinking about how should you make your organization ready, because it's a very different way of working than what we've been used to. So what is it that we can do as progressive and growth oriented organizations to design for flexible working? And I'll talk about a few things over here. This is from both our experience as FlexiBees and also from us being in the space, seeing how organizations are changing their ways of working. We do a lot of reading on it. We interact with a lot of companies who come to us looking for this kind of talent. So this is from all of that experience. And as far as we are concerned as FlexiBees, we are a remote first organization. So we are 50 people right now, maybe even a few more than 50. We are a big team who's working entirely remotely, and we've been working remotely from day one. So we've been in business now for 6 years. The co-founding team, all three of us co-founders work remotely as well. So I am here in India and my co-founders are in Singapore. So we are a truly global organization in that sense. And the team is distributed as well. And we make it work beautifully. We make it work extremely well. And from that experience and from a lot of how we see companies, large companies too, reworking their entire talent strategy to make themselves more future forward, more hybrid. These are some of the things that I can think of. But before that, Dr. Nagendra, do you want to pause for any questions? Happy to do
Shreya, I think we'll go ahead and we'll have the questions towards the end of it. Is that okay? So that we don't
Sure.
want to give any pause to your presentation and to the flow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, flexibility or designing for flexibility doesn't mean that you create a one size fits all strategy. So what I mean by that is a lot of companies today are, saying that, they, in their bid to be hybrid, they say that, okay, everybody has to come to office 3 days a week. And these are the 3 days that you must come to office. But that's going against the grain of flexibility. So, a hybrid workforce doesn't mean that everybody has to come to office only on those 3 days of the week, and the other 2 days everybody can stay at home. That's not, that is doesn't answer to the basic need of flexibility that your employee workforce is asking for. So let me tell you, it could be that for a certain, for a parent, for a caregiver, it is possible for them to, come to work every day in the week, but they can only make it work for, say, 5 to 6 hours. For somebody else, it may be that they want to, come in maybe one particular day of the week when they can, get somebody else to take care of, say, their parents who they are caregiving for. But it's not possible for them to come those 3 days that you're asking them to come. It could be possible that, and these situations we see a lot in slightly more, say, remote friendly markets like, say, Europe. We see these situations where employees are, in fact, during the pandemic, they've taken up, they've migrated to smaller towns. Actually, it's happened in a few cases in India also, where employees have gone back to their hometowns, right? And they may not be able to come at all. They may not be able to come any day at all. So, of course, it's the prerogative of a business to figure out what absolutely doesn't work for them. And there are certain businesses, and there are certain functions within businesses where this won't work. For example, manufacturing, right? For example, field sales. So these, of course, are not places where you can have a lot of flexibility. But for the rest of the for the roles, um, I would say that it's very important to keep that basic need of the employee workforce at heart. So what a lot of companies are doing, say for example, Salesforce and a couple of others, is that they have decentralized their approach to finding the right mix. So it's not a top-down approach. It's not somebody sitting at the top saying that, okay, this is the kind of hybrid that we need our workforce to have. You let the teams handle it. You let the teams figure out with their team members what is it that what is their unique mix, what works for them. And it comes from the bottom up, and it actually then meets the real need of what the employees want. Of course, there it has to be a matrix effort. So there could be certain roles that from top down, the organization decides will need to come, on certain days and those kinds of things. But by and large, a decentralized approach works better than a mandate coming from the top, which actually negates the very reason for flexibility. And in fact, this has been mentioned in the Michael Page report as well. While organizations are feeling that they're giving the flexibility by saying 3 days in office and these 3 days, it actually isn't working that well. So it's very important to keep your, like we say, keep your customer at heart. Your employee is your customer in this case, and keep them in focus on what is it that they need. So that's the first one. The second is, it's not only important to create these rules and these policies. It's very important to also change the mindset of the organization. So I'm specifically talking to HR professionals here, who may very well be able to create policy and certain regulations and rules around how people should engage and be at the workplace or not. But if your people don't, and by that your managers and the team leaders and your management don't essentially believe that it's not important to be in office to deliver great work, if they don't believe that, then it will not take. Because it will seem like something that it will seem like a favor that's being done to somebody. It will seem like that there will still be that approach of equating time spent in office to the work done, and the whole approach of flexibility, or the whole philosophy of flexibility, is to break down that notion that just because I'm not in office doesn't mean that I'm not working. It's to break that very fundamental assumption down. And if that assumption doesn't get broken down, then it won't work. So what this means in practice is that, this mindset needs to be baked into how people speak to their teams. It needs to be baked into the KPIs as well. So it needs to be more output oriented. You need to have, KPIs which don't, for example, track, the number of the input metrics, but track output metrics. And that is how conversations happen as well. And that's a much better place for a business to be also in, because why, as a business, do you want to track how many hours your team is working? If it doesn't lead to output, then that doesn't work for anyone. So I think this mindset is what needs to change. So, for example, if you're giving your people the flexibility, it doesn't mean you make them sit in a chair and in their homes, and you track whether they've left their, whether there is movement on their monitor or not. That again completely goes against the idea of and the philosophy of flexibility. So I think somewhere there needs to be trust. So there needs to be trust. There needs to be this belief that people are working. They are bringing their best work. You are enabling your best people to do their best work, and you have to trust them to do it. And yes, please bake it into their KPIs, make the KPIs more output focused, make your conversations and appraisals more output focused. Communication. Now, this we have seen from our experience at FlexiBees also, that because we are a fully remote team, communication is so important. So we have to over-index on it. So be it, say, your vision, talking about your goals, talking about your culture, talking about your successes, talking about mistakes anyone made, being very, quick and agile on response. All of those things are communication that you have to over-index on if you want to build a remote or hybrid team. For example, in a hybrid setup, there could be people who are working from home, and the others are working in office. And you need to make sure that your communication system takes care of that. So whatever information is being shared, it should be shared over a channel which reaches both both groups of people. Just because some people are not in office doesn't mean that you're not communicating the important aspects to them. So that would not work. That would be a failed system. And in this case, definitely the group that's sitting at home would feel that they are not they're not getting they're being disadvantaged because they are working from home. And then again, it boils down to the to the structure not working. So communication is it's the lifeblood of an organization, and the way that a hybrid or remote organization needs to, communicate needs to be a little different from how, brick and mortar organizations communicated. And of course, like I said, businesses gain from this, right? So you are able to hire, say, an expert who is sitting in some other city, and you want them to work for you. But then you have to make it worth their while. You have to include them in how they need to feel that they are part of the team as well. So these are things that are a give and take. They benefit the organization, and you have to make sure that you are including that employee also, and that group of employees. And if you are fully remote, then even more so, whether it is how they interact with each other, how different team members interact with each other. So there needs to be multi-nodal points of communication. It's not just about a top-down approach, but also that employees need to have ways in which they talk to each other. So me, for example, I'm the sales leader for my organization. So I have a sales masterclass that's set. It's put into everybody's calendars, and every 2-3 weeks we have a sales masterclass where the entire sales team comes together and they share their learnings. Now, many of us, maybe from the say, field sales kind of setup. I myself am in Unilever. I was area sales manager for Maharashtra Rural for 3 years, and which meant that my team used to be sitting in different towns in Maharashtra, whereas I used to be in Bombay, and of course I would go and meet them every 3 days. So 3 days and every week I would be out in the markets. But the entire team would come together only once a month, right? So um, that and then I would see that would be the time for us to share information, share learnings, and there would be a lot of it would help people to understand their own problems a little better, to find solutions. So that's the same approach that I have at FlexiBees also. Every 2-3 weeks the sales team comes together, at least that's what the intent is. Being a startup, sometimes you're not able to do it, but every 2-3 weeks, the team comes together and they share their learnings. The team leads, they talk about what it is they did. So somebody who did something good talks about it. We call them out. We celebrate them quickly. And so it creates a lot of positive vibe, and it also helps in knowledge being shared in the organization. So this is just one example. There are many such things we do. We have drum beats built into our calendars. Every month we have a drum beat to understand whether our communication is working, whether our marketing strategy is working. We measure every single last thing. So don't leave in a remote organization, and maybe in a hybrid also, don't leave communication to chance. Plan it, build it into your calendars, build it into your into the way that the team interacts. That's a very important aspect of how to make it work. And this again, the entire employee experience needs to be redesigned in certain ways. If you're if you're working for a hybrid or a remote organization, and if you're looking to build systems for it, for example, the way that employees will get onboarded in a remote or hybrid environment may need to be different from how employees get onboarded when they walk into an office for the first time. That experience needs to be crafted in a way that it's similar. When they come in, they first perhaps will understand a little bit about the company, that overview of the company. Then they'll meet their team members, then they'll get a view of where everything is, where to go to get this kind of information, where to go to get some other kind of information. And that experience now needs to be converted into the virtual space. So you have to think of it from it has to be a very holistic design approach, and it can't be solved by small things. So it's not just about putting one document on Google Drive. It's about rethinking that employee engagement entirely. For example, for us, we have different groups. We use WhatsApp, so we have different groups for every team. And say somebody in sales who joins the team and on the first day they only join the core team, which has all of the company's employees. And as they progress in the sales funnel, is when we keep adding them to more and more groups, so that they don't get overwhelmed all at once being added to 50 groups. So these are things that we have thought of on how we want our company and the new people who are engaging with us to see us. Who does the induction? I have a full plan for induction. It has at every step there is the person who is responsible for it, what they need to do. I have a buddy assigned to the person who comes in. So LNA, be it inductions, be it onboarding, all of these experiences need to be thought of differently in the whole remote and hybrid setup. Equally, employee support. So if your employee needs in a remote environment needs to find a certain policy or needs to understand where to go to file for their travel expenses, they should very quickly be able to get in touch with someone, or they should know where to go for something like this. And I have known of organizations who are creating these assistants, virtual assistants, and AI assistants who are now able to, in a very customized way, also help employees find their way around, even if they are working from home. And even if you're remote or if you are hybrid, it doesn't mean that you cannot plan for those occasions where everybody comes in. It could happen. There are occasions that demanded, for example, appraisals or any big milestones or celebrations where you need the entire team to come in. So being remote or hybrid certainly doesn't mean that the people never get to see each other. It's a good mix. You have to define what that mix should be for your business and your industry. but it's all about getting to the right mix. So, for example, for us also, even though we are fully remote, we do city meets. So we would travel. Say the founders would travel to certain cities, and we meet the entire team in those cities over there. And it's very it's very rewarding. You get to see people across the table. You get to hear their stories in very different ways. And it's something that definitely helps. And again, so it's about finding the right mix and the sweet spot. It's not about never seeing each other in person at all. And finally, we hear sometimes organizations say that how is culture going to be built if people don't see each other, or if everybody is not at the same place at the same time? And my response to that is that culture goes way beyond your office. Culture is not something that's it's only something that organically happens when 500 people come together. Culture is something that's built very intentionally. It is about values that the people at the top are intentionally driving, and then the employees pick up and start living those values as well. It's about the ways that you work and the ways that you don't work. At Unilever, there was a code of business principles that we used to have, and I still remember it so deeply entrenched and engraved in my mind. It was COBP, it was called. And this was a code of business principles that all of us were made very strongly aware of. We used to do quizzes on it to make sure that we know it really well. And basically, it was a code of things that we had to follow, our conduct, and what were some of the things that we couldn't do and we shouldn't do. All of that was it was part of this document and this piece of work. And no matter where we were in the world, everybody working in Unilever would know what a COPP is, right? So that is one aspect of building culture. You don't need to have people in the same room. There are our ancient civilizations, and what we call as our culture have sustained across space and time. They have been around, through millennia. So don't think of culture as something that only can be built if your employees come to office, if your team comes to office and sees what you're doing, and is able to watch you. It's something that has to go beyond that. It's very intentionally built, and it definitely can be built in a remote or a hybrid setup as well. Yeah, so these are some of the companies that we work with, and these are only some of the companies. We work with more than 600 companies, and all these are, progressive, big and large companies who see a lot of value in working flexibly. It is definitely, it's not the future anymore. We used to say that it's the future, before the pandemic, and today it is very much the new normal. That's it from me. Happy to take any questions. No questions?
Yeah, thank you. So there are quite a few questions here. Let me take one by one with your permission, Shreya. The first question is from just a moment. Yeah, Prasanna Senapati. Her question is how to retain an employee if offer is from a market leading company.
If offer is
If offer is from a market leading company.
uh, See, okay, so that's what I said. So today, as per that Michael Page report, there are three things that employees are looking for, even in India. First of all, salary. Yes, definitely there is a salary which is very important to employees today. Second is career progression, career growth, and third is flexibility. So this is the equation that you have to play with, right? So it could be that if you are a smaller company, pitted against a market leading company, you may not be able to over index on the first one, which is salary, but you definitely have two more levers to play with, which is, career progression. You show them a better career path. You show them where they're going to get in the next 2 years if they work with you. And third is the flexibility. You make your environment such that they get the ease of working there, which today very much everybody wants. And that's another very good lever to retain your employees. So this is of course on a more, say, aggregated level, but you, for your organization, have to find what that mix is. And it will be one of these or two of these will definitely be a part of the picture. But if there is something else that specifically your team is looking for, you have to figure out. So basically what an employee looks for is never one thing. It's always a basket. And if even if you can't really compete on that one thing, you can compete on the other two or three, is what I would say.
Add one more thing here related to this one, Shreya. Recently, just about I think weeks back, we would have seen I think a very important news about when TCS employees have been asked to come back to office. There is almost like exodus in terms of resignations. That's one, and also the latest Time magazine has published just a one-page, very interesting again a research-based article on what you said. I think they have compared just this year between quarter 1 and quarter 2. The figures are between working from home and the hybrid, and hybrid is growing. I'm talking about just these 2 quarters, not even the entire year, right? And the figures are very, very vivid there, and that is they're showing a very positive trends towards having a hybrid work thing. So how do you look at this one? Because now there are a lot of other issues related to this one. For example, many companies have started looking at moonlighting as a big issue when they allowed people to start working from home, and that has been another. So that is can be one reason as to why people have been asked to come to office and things like that. Now, so all of them put together, definitely the employees are seeking flexible working. Right? That's what it is. But the company is seeking definitely the productivity or the loyalty. That ultimately it's all about whether somebody is giving in, from the point of view of the value delivered or not. So how do you see this? The dichotomy there.
No, so it's a brave new world out there. I think companies need to really rethink the way that they define loyalty also. I mean, loyalty in the past used to be by itself a value that
Right.
people would have, that I want to be loyal because I believe in loyalty. I want to be with this company because it's simply good, it's secure for me. But today people don't think like that. Today loyalty comes, at the back of something that you as a company are also giving to the employee. What is it that you are giving to them? Are you giving them what they want? And for a lot of tech workers, they may want to work across, maybe multiple companies, or they may want to work multiple projects. So first of all, I think it's important to understand what the reasons behind that are. Why do they want to work across multiple roles? So it's one thing to say that, oh, they're working from home, that's why it's easier for them to do that. But that's only the symptom. I mean, that's not really the root cause. Why do they want to work across? I mean, just out of the blue and randomly, people don't want to work, 12 hours a day or 15 hours a day if they can avoid doing that, right? So there are people who want to do full-time jobs and then, spend 2-3 hours working for other companies. Or there are people who are able to finish working for you in, say, half the day, and then use their time to work for another company. That itself is also an indication of what, how your company is structured, the kind of work that you're giving your team, how meaningful they are finding working for you. So there are multiple drivers of why people today want to moonlight, right? It could be that they want better work. It could be they want more meaningful work. It could be that they want to work on their own businesses. It could be that they want to make more money. It could be that they want to get experience with working with global markets, to make their resumes better. So there are multiple reasons. So companies need to identify these reasons and figure out how they will tackle it, right? It's important. It's, not just putting a blanket ban on something, because then what you're doing is you're just brushing it under the carpet, and it'll come out in some other way. I mean, human ingenuity is amazing. So people will find a way to work around your blanket ban as well. So you have to figure out what it is that your employee is seeking, and then build your systems as per that. And okay, at the end of the day, as a company, you still have the prerogative, even if there are people who seek variety. If that is a driver, you can still say that, okay, I will enable it for some part of my pool. And then what
Mm.
that means is that you no longer are an employee with me, but you're a contractor. And there are
Mm.
certain roles which you may not be able to engage with because there's data confidentiality and some other things. And that's the deal that you give to your employees. If variety is what they seek, and they can make their choice. They can either choose to be contractors, and then in that case, they can work with other companies if they are not competing. But the ones who are, who do not want that, they will then have to, make you their sole, their sole employer. So different drivers will have different solutions. So I think companies need to understand
Absolutely.
what their drivers are.
This is a question from Mr. Rajneesh Kumar. His question is how working remotely is considered new culture while IT service-based companies want their employees to come to office for safer clients' data. Thank you, Rajneesh.
For sorry, what?
For
What?
say for safer clients' data.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't know if IT companies are, asking their people to come back because of data confidentiality, but definitely data confidentiality is a challenge as far as remote work is concerned. There are industries which have far more stringent norms as well on data confidentiality, and for them, they have to figure out how they want to do it. And some of them are doing things like we've seen some cases where, apart from, of course, NDAs that can be signed, a lot of documentation that can be signed, all of that can be done. Apart from that, there is a lot of device control. So your device that they'll be working on has to be provided by the company. There is absolutely nothing that you can download from anything. There are firewalls in place. So these are some ways that companies are trying to see screenshots. For example, there are some softwares that prevent you from taking screenshots, right? So there are ways that companies are figuring out around data and data confidentiality problems, but yes, it's something that needs to be figured out.
Now, this is a question from Ashish Pathak, which is a quite longish one, but let me read out for you, Shreya. Hello, Shreya. Jai Hind. This is Ashish Pathak. It's a pleasure to share this Zoom platform with you today. My question or concern comes on the point where you talked about the recent trends report from Michael Page, and the same I also saw on your LinkedIn profile. And apart from all the points, I am having served at a position where I interacted with a lot of senior corporate or government officials. I have come across many thoughts from employees talking about career growth being undervalued by employers. That's his first question. Where career growth is being undervalued by employers. And I would like to link another point to it, which mentioned the decline in rate of loyalty, as they are somewhere related to each other. Now, having known that we have this issue persisting, I would like to know as to what are some of the steps that should be taken as to cure this pressing need, as I have somehow helped a lot of helped a lot many employees come out of psychological pressure of being undervalued at their workplace. Thank you, Ashish. It's quite a long one.
So definitely, I mean, there is a need to show a path to employees today, that it's not just about the current role. It's not just about the current responsibilities. Employees today are more ambitious. They want to know where they will be in a year from now, in 2 years from now. I mean, the tables have turned, right? We used to ask, as if I put myself in the shoes of an employer, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Today, employees are asking us, where do you see me going, a couple of years from now? And for especially for a lot of smaller companies, a lot of startups, it's very important for them to over-index on career growth, because people sometimes take that risk when they come and join you. But equally,
Mm.
larger companies as well. So it's very important. I mean, your point is that companies are not doing it and employees are feeling undervalued. I mean, there is no more pressing need, I would say, in that case,
Mm.
for employees, for companies to look at define career paths for their teams, and have those honest conversations. If you don't see a career path for someone, then let tell them that and let them seek newer opportunities and better opportunities elsewhere. The other aspect here is also of training your employees, because the other thing that's playing a role is the skills are actually evolving very fast also, right? Newer technologies are coming in. Today the things that we work with may not actually have been in place say 5 years back as well. So as an employer, not only do you need to show them the path, but you also need to equip them to be able to reach there. So again, it's a very important role that L&D and training also plays in today's world. And of course, it all gives back to the employer, because if you make your workforce future ready, then it's going to help you achieve your goals better.
Thank you, Shreya. This is a question from Mr. Sudeep Sen Sarma. And his question, so what do you think are the flip sides of the flexible working economy, including mental well-being, and what are the best practices so far to address them? Thank you, Sudeep.
Yeah, thank you for this question. So I think one of the flip sides could be that people don't end up interacting with each other at all. The work streams are so well functioning, and work like a well-oiled machine, that people actually don't end up talking. Or even if they do talk, it's very transactional, and they don't end up talking about anything beyond work. So that's why I said that communication is very important. In a remote organization, in a hybrid organization, multinodal communication. There are softwares today, and there are practices today where, say, an agenda-less meeting is set up between, say, two employees that the software detects have not interacted with each other for some time, for example. So then a meeting would, or of course, the choice would be given to the employees on whether they want to do the meeting or not, but at least it will be a nudge that you haven't spoken to this particular employee or this team member in some time. Do you want to connect? The other solution is for the company itself to create these avenues where people can come together and they can breathe. They can talk about things apart from work. It could be in person as well. So, like I said, that remote hybrid doesn't mean that your people never meet. You could set a cadence of, say, a quarterly meet for the entire team to come together, and those are places where people can actually get that very strong human connection. And the rest of the time you could have, say, a fortnightly gathering of everybody virtually meeting. So we, for example, used to have this fun Friday concept where every Friday we would get the team together and we would just talk about something that is not to do with work at all. And it helped really understand who the other person was outside of work as well. So you have to over index on communication and plan for these things if you're a remote or hybrid organization.
Thank you, Shreya. This is a question from Mr. Abhishek Kocher, and his question is, how can we make the employee feel connected with the company? Thank you, Abhishek.
Yeah, I think to some extent, as employers today, we have to be okay with not all of our employees feeling that very deep connection with the company. I think that's a
Mm.
mindset we need to overcome. We have seen in the past, that, like I said, loyalty for the sake of loyalty, and companies creating that emotional, sort of culture where people feel the sense of belonging and identity with the company. That's changing. Today employees want to engage in a slightly more transactional way. They think of their work as what input that they are giving to the organization, and the output that they take away are the salary and the growth and the perks and the work environment and the flexibility and some of those things. So I think we have to be, to some extent, be okay with that some of our people may want to engage with us in that way. Not everybody will feel, oh, we think you're the best company on earth, and we are proud to
Mhm.
be working for you. But for the rest, I think the same things that have always worked. Human beings like purpose. Human beings like to be feeling that they are working for something larger than what they are. And what today has happened is that people have become very smart. So if you just put the spin of purpose on something which is the same old vanilla product or service offering, people can detect it. So I think
Absolutely.
organizations also need to do that work to really find who they are, and then be able to communicate it to their employees, who then feel that identity and sense of belonging.
Now, thank you. This is a question from Mr. Gauri Shankar Vadivel. His question is, for a manufacturing company which is more in need of physical presence, how do you feel this flexi work culture will work? Thank you, Gauri Shankar.
Of course, I mean, like I said, it's not possible for every industry and every function to be made absolutely fully flexible. But some of the ways that I have seen, companies, and I'm reading up on some of those now. So there was this recent story of Tata Motors having set up a fully woman-led facility, and I'm hearing some other such stories where the plants are entirely managed by women. And how do companies manage that? So it's not through them working from home. Obviously that can't happen, but you create the flexibility that you can within the constraints of your setup. So for example, you have daycare on premises, right? If you are if you want to create a flexible environment, I take it as given that there are women who you want to hire. And then if you are hiring women, you need to create, say, daycare facilities, which are a part of your plant manufacturing setup. Equally, in terms of shifts, there should be the flexibility for a person to change their shift if they do need to, and somebody else to take over. Perhaps it can be enabled through technology, so it can be very quick and efficient. So these are some of the flexibilities that can still be offered in manufacturing setup. And today there are companies that are doing it.
This is a question from Mr. Vikash Pandey. His question is, I want to know precisely what talent or qualification or experience is required for working in such flexible platforms.
So the flexible platforms are just enablers. If you want to go and put your profile on a flexible platform, you can do it, from whichever space and function that you belong to. For some functions, of course, it's easier. For example, if you're in any sort of digital space, there are a lot of takers. For some others, the demand is slightly lesser. But for example, our platform, for sure, while it is only for women, it is catering to all kinds of skills and functions.
Good. This is a question from Mr. Roop Pai. Are Indian companies or managers ready to accept the work from home culture? Thank
Some
you,
of
Roop.
them, some of them are, but that's the kind of showdown that's happening today. You know,
Hmm.
it's seeming to me that there are two sides to this battle. It's a battle that's almost happening because talent don't want to go to office every day. They want flexibility. They've tasted it through the pandemic. There are numerous men who I speak to who have spent time with their families during the pandemic, and now they want to be able to continue doing that. And it doesn't make sense to commute to office, 2 hours every day, and that's completely unproductive time, and spend 10 hours in office when you could be at home and you could mold your work day around your other priorities as well. So people are in that place, and companies, if they don't cotton on very quickly, then they will lose their best talent. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. This is the maybe maybe second last question for today evening, Shreya, with your permission. This is a question from Mr. Gauri Shankar Vadivel again. This is the second question from him, and his question is: in sales, even after giving a lot of flexibility in the work, still the attrition is very high. How to keep them motivated?
See, sales will have slightly higher attrition than the rest of your functions. That's always the case in sales. It's a very hard job. I'm a sales leader myself. I've done sales. I'm doing sales here in FlexiBees also. So there will be a slightly higher attrition, I think, in sales. But yes, I think again, it's a mix of both your tangible benefits. Structure your incentives well, structure your sales system in such a way that people think it's fair, that they are getting to take home the right fixed compensation as well, not just variable. So sometimes we get people coming and telling us that I'll only give variable to my teams, and that's all. But if you are giving only variable, you get no accountability. And equally, you don't feel accountable as well, because you think that, okay, I'm not investing anything into this person, so I don't need to really train them as well. So pay them a good fixed for the effort that they are making. Depending on the pipelines, you may have long pipelines, you need to pay for that. Pay them a good variable and make it easy for them to deliver. Give them the right incentives, as well as, of course, there is a little bit of organizational purpose and all of those things, which also plays a role over there.
Now, this is a question from Mr. Divakar, and his question is related to, I think, he's quoting a report. His question is, according to one of the reports, EY employer survey, 40 to 50% of employees are highly concerned of creativity, innovation, collaboration when it comes to remote working. How do you think this will ever get addressed, or how FlexiBees is dealing with this? Thank you, Divakar.
Thanks. So, so it's a very, I think it's a wrong notion, personally, and actually from the evidence around us, that creativity needs only face to face. There are ways to enable it in a remote setup as well. For example, at FlexiBees, we recently wrote a book, and that's as creative an endeavor as it can get. Right? We wrote a book and we published it within 3 months. How much time does it take to write a book? It takes a year. People told us you all can't do it, and we are a fully remote setup working across 50 different places, and we were able to put together a book. It's 20 stories, by the way. The book is called Found Again. It's 20 stories of women who we work with and who come and created their own careers with us. And we managed to get those interviews, to write those stories, to get their pictures, to speak with the publishers, to get it printed, to get it on the platforms, to market it, and all of those things in a completely remote way within 2 to 3 months. So creativity doesn't need a person, people to come, into the same room. It can be same room. It can be the same virtual room. That's also possible. And imagine the kind of experience you're able to get if you don't have to only hire from, like I said, the 10-kilometer radius around your office. You're able to get, you're able to creatively get people from across the country and across the globe to work on your mission. So yeah, that's my response.
And this is the last question for today evening, Shreya. And again, this is second question from Mr. Abhishek Kochar. And question is, how do you think this work from home culture will benefit the social media department at work?
The social media, how will it benefit them? Um, in what way? You think that there needs to be more social media if a team is working from home? I'm not actually getting the connection between work from home and social media
I don't know
departments.
really, so I cannot second guess that. But I just have one more question for you, maybe last question, Shreya. I think you would have heard about this great company called Zoho, right? I know, which is a billion-dollar company, and they have headquarters in the United States, and they have India headquarters in Chennai. Just before pandemic, actually, I know maybe it was accidental or incidental. I have no idea, but then maybe it was the fortitude as well. The Mr. Vembu, Sridhar Vembu, has actually shifted his entire office to a small village in near Tenkasi in Tamil Nadu. And trust me, everybody just loved it so much. Of course, after that, the entire country went into the pandemic. But the good thing is that that is continuing even today, where people have actually started loving to work in this very remote village where you do not have access to all the luxuries of life that you find in the metros like Chennai and other places. When do you get to see that kind of trend where people actually want companies to go back and set up their offices, maybe in a very remote places, and therefore they might like to work. Of course, this is just an experiment, maybe with one of the for maybe Fortune 500 companies there.
Yeah, definitely. We see it. For example, Zerodha also is, I think, 90% plus of their employees are, working from different places. And Nitin Kamath has come and said that, our employees are loving, working from their own,
Yeah.
native towns and with their own families. And, we want to enable it for them. And why not? And I think, apart from the whole business benefits and the talent benefits, it has so many more environmental benefits and nation building benefits. You're creating hubs of commerce across
influence.
the nation, rather than getting people, migrating to these, overused, to 3, 4, or 5, 6 hubs that we have, which are the cities, overloaded and overburdened cities. So it's a far more distributed and decentralized model of, building the economy. So yeah, we do see it. And what we also feel very proud about is that of the women that we have placed, around 30% of them are actually from small towns, from tier 2
Okay,
towns and tier 3 towns. And they don't have perhaps the same opportunities, but they are skilled, and they are able to now engage in the paid workforce, be financially independent, take their careers ahead, because they have now opportunities remotely. So,
absolutely.
I think the PM of the country and many other, leaders, they talk about creating this workforce, not just in the metros, but across the country, right? So whether it is people going back, or whether it is people who are residing in those places, you are able to harness that talent that India overall has. And, I
Absolutely,
think that's great.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think the as people say, Bharat really lives on. I mean, that's what it's all about. Thank you so much, Riya. And I'm sorry in case we have overstepped on the time part of it, but absolutely pleasure having you. And then have. In fact, we were all actually, so personally, I really wanted to ask you a question about what made you hung up your illustrious career with Unilever, and that you have when you're doing extremely well, and then you jump into this entrepreneurial venture sometime back. Of course, now it's almost about 7 years, right? But all said and done, it's a fantastic hearing your story and also your perspectives on this flexible working economy, which I think all of us are part of in some way or other. And the only thing is that each one of us must be experiencing some element of this flexible working economy, because there's no standardization as such. But I think the moment the standardization happens, I think the entire fun of this flexibility is gone in any case.
Yeah.
But thank you so much once again, Shreya, for your time, and really appreciate and look forward to hosting you once again. Maybe with maybe once you write the second book with maybe many more stories.
Definitely. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.